In this video, I'm going to talk about the setup that I use for the rotary tool with the LaserPecker 4. I'll tell you about why I think this is a great setup, especially for tumblers, and why the default setup that they tell you to use is not great. I'll walk you through the stages that I went through to get to this setup. So here you see the default setup for the rotary tool, but even with a very narrow tumbler here, the support doesn't go low enough to keep the top level, to keep it parallel to the laser to get a consistent engraving. Another issue you're going to run into here is since it's a shooting down a line, you have to manually align the rotary tool underneath it. You could stick a small item like a pencil in the rotary tool, get your alignment, and then put in your bigger item. This by far is the worst setup for using the rotary tool, especially if you're doing tumblers. If you have a bigger tumbler like this, there's no chance of using it in this orientation. So this rotary head turns from the front to the back of the laser as it goes. If you had it pointed the other way, it would move from the back to the front, and this is going to print stuff backwards. So if you had text, it would end up printing backwards. So with this correct orientation, what we're going to end up doing is flipping the laser head, but what you'll see is the right side of the laser head is going to be to the top of whatever's in the rotary tool, and the left side would be aimed at the rotary tool itself. This support tool that you're supposed to use in the default configuration doesn't go low enough, making it impossible to do most things if they have any significant diameter. So basically this just lives in my drawer because I don't use it. You're going to want to disconnect everything from the laser head. I'll put the cover on. Take your laser head off. Loosen this bracket, flip it forward 90 degrees. Then take the additional support piece, mount that with this on the top. And then we're going to mount the laser head going this way. And then you can connect your stand back up and your power. And then what we're going to do with the rotary tool is we're going to set it up here and place our item up in here. So one of the issues with this setup is the laser head is not in alignment with the center of the rotary tool here. It's off to the side. So you can either angle this to get it to the center, or you can flip this around and align it this way. The way I measure distance is from the bottom of the laser head to the unit, and it's actually probably about 157 here. So for this, it'd be back here, and then I would align the center here. So with the second setup, this rotary tool is still turning this way, so it's going from front to the back of the laser, so it will print appropriately. In order to have a good engraving, you need this edge to be parallel with the edge of the item you're engraving. So you can use a little bubble level, see how level your laser is, and then match that on the edge of the item that you are engraving, and then adjust the angle of the rotary to match. So after I have it level, I need to figure out my focus. In my previous video that I've done, I talked about figuring out the focus from the edge of the laser unit. So I measure from here to the body to get my focus and then shift it accordingly. You also want to remember that we have the center of the laser hitting the center of the rotary tool. Again, you could take this item out. You could shove a pencil in the center here to get it aligned, and then put your item back in. So one of the downfalls with this setup right now is the top of the item is fairly high compared to the bottom of the laser stand. So you have a limited amount of range that you can put the laser up on the stand to engrave on the item. But you are able to move the laser up and down, which is really nice once you have everything else in alignment. So now we're going to move to the next stage. So in this third setup, I've got books underneath the stand here, but the bottom book is slid back so that the rotary tool can face this way, so I can have alignment of the center of the rotary tool with the laser head. By also lifting it up, now we have further range that we can engrave on the item we're engraving with the stand moving up and down. This gets you into where you can actually do full wraps of the full length of a tumbler, even on something like a 40-ounce tumbler. Here, you're still gonna have to use your bubble level to check the level on your laser, match on the side, but then you can adjust the angle here and tilt it forward and back. And then you can use the power stand to adjust the height at where you want to engrave something. You still have to make sure forward and backward that you're center aligning the rotary tool with the laser head and adjusting the tilt forward and back. Let's go to the final step. So the final setup involves this jig that I made, which makes my life a lot easier when engraving tumblers specifically, but other things with the rotary tool. So you can see the laser stand fits right into this jig. And then the rotary tool has a slot right in up front. So we have the height so that we can engrave higher on the item we're engraving. We have this slot that is shifted underneath the stand so that we have alignment with the laser head. And when I built this, I figured out where this slot needed to be so that I had perfect alignment front to back with the laser head. So all I have to do when I'm getting my focus is slide this forward and back, and it's going to be perfectly aligned. So here we still need to use our bubble level, check the level of the laser, match that on the side of the tumbler, adjusting the angle and then tightening up the chuck here. And then from the body here, we can check our focus. And now we're just shifting and we don't have to worry that we're getting out of alignment because of the slot in here. So this has a ton of advantages. So here's a bonus. Say you're engraving this tumbler and you want to go all the way to the edge of this stainless steel ring. You can see the powder coating is below the finger here. So what I've done is I've taken 6mm plexi and I've cut out circles of various diameters for different tumblers that I engrave. This allows me to seat this underneath this tumbler. I still have enough of the finger grasping the stainless steel edge, but now the coating is above the finger so I can engrave the full tumbler. If you use the rotary tool with the LaserPecker 4, I hope you learned something useful in this video that will help you. I also hope I convinced you to use it in the upright position instead of laying it across the laser. Now this becomes particularly important if you ever want to try and do a full wrap on a tumbler, because you have the power stand which you can accurately move up and down to do certain sections of the tumbler. You're not going to be able to do that when it's laying across the laser and you have to manually move the whole unit. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any other questions or ideas for the video, leave them in the comments below. Thanks.